Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather, a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present.
This was something I knew was going to happen, but I didn't realize that I knew. I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a writer, and I have been telling this story for all of my career. In 1967, I was riding a horse and was thrown into a tree. And I remember landing on what I thought was the electric fence. And the next thing I know, I'm unconscious for a period of time. I have no idea how long I was unconscious. And suddenly I feel jarring, and I open my eye a little bit, and my dad's carrying me, and my arm is just flopping around. And I'm like, oh no, another broken bone. And um, I all of a sudden am standing in front of my dad, and I'm watching him running towards me with this Raggedy Ann doll. That's what I kept thinking is, he's holding a Raggedy Ann doll just flopping all over the place. And I'm watching him, and I look at his face, and I think he is so afraid. There's so much fear in his face. And then I thought, no, it's not fear, it's love. And I'm watching him run towards me, and then then the scene ends, just kind of blacks out. And then I wake up and I have a cast on my arm from here to here. I can't see out of my eye. I damaged a nerve in my eye, and I broke my neck. And I'm laying in bed, and I have my sisters are chattering in the background, and finally they fell asleep. And all of a sudden I start hearing this voice, and the voice that I hear, I don't recognize, but they say, do you know you can't see your own face? And it scared me so much. I went and slept with my mom and dad for the very first time in my whole life. I went and slept with them that night. And then the next night, I'm back in my bed, and I'm trying to move around, and I still am getting electrical shocks in my head and down my arms. They didn't realize yet that I had broken my neck. And then I hear again, do you know you can't see your own face? And I said, who is this? And at that time, I knew that voice to be God. And I heard, God, I can't talk to you. I've got to go to Mary. Mary goes to Jesus. Jesus comes to you. I'm Catholic. And God says, no, you can talk to me anytime. I'm your friend. Just communicate anytime. And I said, well, what do you mean I can't see my own face? You can't, but others can. And and they'll know what's going on inside you. Your life is not going to be easy, and I'm asking you to seek wisdom and pass it on to others who need your help. And after that, I started seeking what wisdom was. I mean, I'm 10 years old, so I don't know. I don't know what wisdom is. And the next night, I have my first vision. I'm in my house and the sliding glass door opens and I walk outside. The wind is blowing and I can see there's a storm in the background. And it's off in a distance. The rain hasn't hit yet, but I'm feeling called outside. So I walk out past the barn into the field and I hear wrestling out there, but I don't know what it is. And then the lightning lights up the sky. And I see that there are tens of thousands of beds for as far as I can see, with people laying in them, struggling to breathe. And I know that they're dying. And someone hands me a stack of blankets, and I take them and I just turn to look. But before I can, they ask me to hand the blankets to the people who still need the warmth. And they're green blankets, so I assume that it's war. And I hear gunshots in the distance, but I also hear the storm that's coming. And then the lightning and the thunder as I'm moving forward into towards the beds. And I see that there are nuns, there are doctors, there are people that are tending to the sick, and they have masks on. And I'm not, I'm thinking, is this catchy? Am I going to get sick? Is this the plague? I didn't know. I'm 10. I don't know a lot about these things. So I'm like, I'm reassured that I'm safe. So when I step forward to hand out the blankets, there's a dark figure in a shadow, and they're very alluring. I found myself wanting to go and see who it was. And I step forward, and someone over this shoulder says, "Beware of the salesman in fine silk." And I stepped back. It scared me. And I held the blankets close to me, and they were comforting, and I could feel my body. Now I understand what I was feeling. It's the feeling of hope. And so I stepped forward and I started laying them down. And when the nurses took them from me, or the nuns, and they spread them over top of the sick, they you could just see their countenance change. Their whole face lit up and they smiled at me. And I could see them feeling with hope that they could survive. And then there were others that I would go to them and I could see like there was no energy rising from them that I could see on the other people. And I didn't understand what I was seeing at the time, but I knew that there was no need for the blanket. And an angel would come down and just lift them and ascend. And even though I could see their bodies still in the beds, I could see them ascending with their spirit. And I could just feel the joy that they had, the release that they had. And from that moment on, I never was afraid of death. And as I was waking up, I heard, "Do not put false gods before you." And that I woke up. And that was in 1968. It's been part of my keynotes. I've written about it in a lot of books. And when COVID hit, I started getting meeting planners calling me and saying, "This is your keynote. These are the people in those beds coughing and struggling to breathe. This you've been saying this." And I came home from a trip sick with something that nobody could identify. It was January 1st. And I started having this vision again of when I was 10 years old from 1968. And it started changing and morphing. And I was shown that there would be two new American flags. And then I was shown that the one storm has now become seven. And there are seven storms uprooting humanity. And that's what my new book is about. So I see that you put the storms uprooting humanity, but there are 7. And it's pretty intense. In each one of the stories, each one of the storms, there is a storm keeper that's an angel, and they are the guardian of that storm to help us through that storm at the time. And each one of those people that I met, the angels that I met, once lived, and they have shown me their stories, and their stories align with what we are going through right now. I even visited Peru 2 years ago to research one of the stories from a man named Crow. And now I'm seeing the very things that happened to him at that time are now happening right here. It's a fascinating journey.
Beautiful and fascinating journey. And a very good example, if I can say, about how walking the path of an oracle happens to us in these seemingly, odd, standout, or sometimes insignificant seeming moments for people. Sometimes, that you'll have dreams and dreams and I'm not really sure what that was about. And then it circles, back these years later, without much severity or something. But the path of walking the oracle is to embrace the danger, the any answer that it could be, versus trying to make it what you want it to be. Because to actually open your mind up to view 7 storms and humanity being put under pressure is an uncomfortable experience. That's an uncomfortable thing to open up to the idea of and welcome or embrace information about. So thank you for continuing to receive information that is, especially for a sensitive being, as all of us are, if we are picking things up, we have feelings about these matters, and we need to address those at some point. We still have our humanity that comes to meet, our empathy that comes to meet every situation. And I know from my path, as I get pulled to wander different places, my heart breaks when I'm being shown something that I'm needing to help bring healing towards. It's always that it deeply affects us. So thank you just for embracing the fullness of what it means to walk the path of an oracle and to receive information that is not necessarily pleasant information. And that's actually why we've lost touch, I think, with the idea of oracles over time, because people were like, we don't want to know all the bad stuff. Things already feel scary or moving too fast or all that. But it's exactly also why insights or wisdom keepers, from any definition, I know you actually call yourself or are called, the Storm Oracle. You're one of the rare OracleFest speakers.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And you're one of the rare OracleFest speakers, like myself as well, who calls herself an oracle. And there is this archetypal path, which is walking with future and insight and premonition is also really, I think, being very understanding of and curious about and digging up and healing from the past. We almost have to have this in balance in some kind of way. A lot of my path has been ancestral healing or thinking about much deeper, way longer collective healing patterns and how we might be able to grow, and I have to look at the behind times in order to understand how many times things are mirrored, how many times things are repeating. We become quite good historians in some kind of way, thematic historians.
That's why I have my books. I have my journals with me all the time, because when I start getting things, I start writing things down immediately, because my guides are conservative. And I think it's funny. Let me stop my my phone from trying to ring here. I think it's funny that they're conservative. So when I get something, they use it again and again and again. When I was first sick with COVID, I didn't understand. Nobody knew it was COVID. at the time that I got COVID in January of 2020. But I started seeing the number 222, and I knew it was a date, and I knew it was that year, but it wasn't the only meaning to that. And I started seeing a lot of numbers, and and I said that's going to be a significant date. I don't know why. So my husband, ever the left brain doubter, went over and put it on the calendar, significant date, and wrote it. And so when the date passed, he said, it didn't mean anything. Look at this here, it's 12/22. So there's the 222 as I'm talking about this. And I didn't know for months. My dad passed of COVID in March, and I didn't know for months until I went back and I was looking for a picture of Dad for his celebration of life. And the last time I saw him was on 2/22. It was the last time I hugged my dad.
Wow.
And then I kept seeing the number again, and I knew it was something else. And that's the year that things would start to feel normal again, that we would start to come out of it. So I get repeat numbers, and I always know, like, I think I told you about the 10, 11, 11, 10. I started seeing that back in 2017, 2016 or 2017. I actually went and looked up the meaning because I'm into numerology. So I went and looked up the meaning, and it's timestamps it. So that's the date of when I started seeing it. And then, we have been trying to move for some time. Something kept preventing us from moving to Arizona or even moving out of our house. We were going to move to somewhere else in Tennessee. And we kept getting stopped every step of the way. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And all the while, these numbers keep appearing. And I'm like, I don't know what they are, but I screenshot every time I see it, just so I can remember. And we left Tennessee. Finally, it was like we were being pushed out the door, and everything just happened. Boom, 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 boom. Sold the house first day, when we couldn't even get anybody to come and see it in January, or not January, February. After the current administration took office, everything just crashed, and we couldn't get anybody to even look at our house. So it was a shock that we sold it so quick, and everything just started happening. And then we went on the road, and we ended up having one delay after another because of rain and all this stuff. And we didn't end up arriving until that Saturday night. We left the Sunday before, arrived Saturday night, and it was several days later that I realized it was 10/11. And we closed on this house we were supposed to close on the 13th. And there was a holiday, and they said, well, there might be a delay in getting the funds transferred. So you might want to go to the bank. So on that Monday, we said, let's just go handle it. So we went and had signed everything, had everything notarized, and sent in the money and all that on that Monday. And then later on, when my husband and I came over here on the 13th to close, they said, no, you've already done all the stuff. All you need is the keys. You were closed out on 11/10. So it wasn't anything you can manipulate in any way. And so I'm like, okay, this is right where we're supposed to be at this time. We are where we are supposed to be. And that's what I want to encourage people, the listeners, to really understand, is that we are getting guidance. We are being shown where to move, and we look for those repeat signals, the sacred signals that we get that tell us everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right, and it is. Right now, it doesn't look like it, but we are in the cocoon. And you don't rip open the cocoon to see if the butterfly is formed yet. And that's what we do by awfulizing and watching the news constantly. And all of that is we're looking in that cocoon. We've got to know that the transformation is there, act if we are being called, and we don't want to be passive about it, because then life happens to us, not for us. But we must keep ourselves centered, or we're going to go crazy, or we're going to be completely in fear.
This is a great concern. You're putting words to what I've been feeling a lot of concern for, with all of the really beautiful people who interact with my field, like anyone who just comes in contact with me, with my Heart's Frontier, with our OracleFest shared community. It's not that I'm worried about them in like a grand way. It's like a real subtle, what if they stop listening to the calls because they're so afraid? What if they stop acting from their heart because they're so overwhelmed? And all these things start to feel like they're caving in on people. Like, I genuinely have concern thinking about all of our sensitive and full-hearted beings being depleted when the world really requires that force of love and inspired action, right? Inspired action, you have to have some energy in the tank. Well, how do you get energy in the tank as a spiritual, heart-centered being if you're not focused on spirit and heart-centered activities? And so to me, OracleFest is such the answer for, like, I've been having a lot of conversations with people thinking, not everyone's able to see it on their feed because we're so inundated with all these other messages coming in. So I've got to have some conversations and drop in some messages to people directly, ask, hey, you thinking about coming to OracleFest? What's going on? And a lot of the responses, I'm like, the solution really would be doing the practices or hearing some of the insights and wisdom that I know are coming, because I've had the pleasure of meeting all the speakers. So I already have insight to what is likely going to be shared. And there's also going to be a lot that comes out. I have no idea the depth to which it's going to reach me, because that's what happened last year. It rocked me like a hurricane. I was like, I knew there was a spectacular group of people that had come together, had just felt a resonance with what we're creating here, and the newer ecosystem that's more sustainable, it's community focused, that allows for us to dip in as we need and then come together every January, as we're just entering a new field energetically from Chinese New Year, but also just from the Gregorian calendar year. And it just feels so perfect because we're all inward in the winter anyway, right? So it's like, why not cozy up and connect to ourselves more deeply when the time is right for it? And to me, the time is so right for it. And yet it's like, that's that predictive oracle mind going, well, I'm already seeing these steps ahead, and how important, how necessary the quality of returning to one's inner sovereignty is in this time, right? If you can think for yourself because you can feel for yourself and you're not shutting down all your feelings, you're strong against any type of potential harm that can be coming your way, as far as the energy and the emotional attack of feeling like depleted by trying to make sense of what is absolute absurd horror. Really, like when you look at it on a plain fact level, there's not a lot of reconciling you can do because you don't think that way. So, how on earth can you feel? It's almost impossible to feel the capacity of the world's, I would say it is impossible to feel the capacity of the world's suffering at any moment in time, let alone when it's broadcasted so loudly and bluntly. Actually, I find a lot of this media really blunt. Like it's like, you've just had breakfast, like it's a challenging thing to stomach in all the ways. So anyways, I just wanted to say I really appreciate and thank you for reminding people that, like, this is really an important skill or quality or state. It's an important state of being to return to ourselves, to be in that listening mode versus thinking the world's coming at us.
One of the things, one of the places I was taken to when I was sick was a place called the World Viewing Room. And from the World Viewing Room, there is it looks like water, but it's a flow of energy. And it went out of this room. There was these double doors that opened. They're actually not doors, it's a window. And it says this is the world viewing room. And all these skills showed up to help us learn to look at the world without judgment. And they're very hard, very hard. They're easy to do, but it's very hard to not look at the world without judgment. And then this flow of energy comes, and I could see it wrapping around the world. And I was told that is the prayer wave. It is the wave of hope that circles the world, that creates oneness. Because the one thing that we have, regardless of our beliefs, what we have is hope. And we're all hoping for the same things, even if our input of information is different and we see it differently. We're all connected at hope. It's not love, because with love, everybody says it's love, and I believe in love, but the spiritual type love, but there's a lot of judgment around love. Well, they
A lot of
cheated on me and I
complexity
love them.
around.
And
Yes,
a
yeah,
lot of complexity.
yeah.
So they said it's really hope that brings us together. And so this stream travels the ley lines, it travels the rivers and streams, and anyone who has ever spoken words of hope, we are connected via that stream. And it's called the prayer wave. And the wave of energy, we can feed it every single day, just putting love and hope into that wave, and it keeps that wave going, kind of like the wave, when people stand and like that. But it keeps it going, keeps it moving, as long as we're feeding it with hope, not just our needs, but also contributing. There is give and take. We can't just receive. We have to give. And so this is, as long as we're giving along with receiving, this wave continues to breathe, move, continue. And anyone can tap into it at any time. Although our community usually will call me and ask me to put them in the prayer wave. And in our community, we have a place where they can tell us what's going on. And, in just a few words, just give me the person's name, what the problem is, and let me put them in the wave. And I do it at 8:00 every morning, putting people in the prayer wave.
So beautiful and a simple and very powerful practice for anyone who experiences collective healing, because so much of where people's minds are going to right now, they're getting really awake to our collective healing. It's been happening for a number of years, just as global communication has shifted, right? And we've become more aware because there's so much more media out there for us to have that awareness. And that's a beautiful thing,
Mm-hmm.
so long as we are staying empowered and part of the exchange of giving in care to our communities, right? And so it's a subtle thing. It's a very powerful thing as well. I was just talking about this, actually. It's not recorded, but I was just talking to Dr. Stephen Farmer about this, because he's been a psychotherapist and shamanic healing practitioner over 30 years, and been, doing all this spiritual creative work and oracle decks and books, what have you, ancestors and animal guides. And, it's a lot of focus for a great many years. And I learn a lot from getting the opportunity to listen to so many more people beyond myself, beyond the experience that I have so far in this life. I'm really blessed, actually, to be in this position. I'm like, what a treat. I get to interact with these people. That was the charge for me, is to go and meet all these people who have stories and insights and like sponge it all up, But he was saying to me something that's been on my mind since last year, which is to have a global healing ceremony. And actually, because I'm creating the OracleFest ecosystem, why not gather a few of us and create an energy impact in some way? Because a lot of people who feel things and then feel as though they are powerless to the actions that are not done by them, not because of them, right? That it suddenly is depleting, because we have it's like the love and the the care and the action is wanting to burst from us. So providing more opportunities for the energy and the heart of things like the prayer wave to be able to continue flowing is part of how we actually support the whole as well. You can write letters, you can take absolute grounded actions on the physical plane as well. But I think if you are attuned or sensitive to the different realms, then there's also definite support that we can be providing right from wherever we are with whatever we have. And we end up feeling better by the end of it because people who are caring people end up feeling really good after they give. So it's actually like, it's really super beneficial for everyone. You're not going to be tapped out because of giving hope, inspiration, love, joy, whatever the words are out to the world. And it's an interesting thing I'd like to also kind of throw out here is that actually a lot of the spiritual speakers that I'm speaking to, I'm trying to think if there was any outliers, but really everyone who would be considered in elder zone only ever gives me a message of hope. Like only ever gives me the idea that things are like almost I cannot feel defeated by these times because of who I'm blessed to be able to speak to. And I almost just want to give that gift to every attendee who comes to any of our OracleFest events and there's a greater number. You can look at like the speaker lineup. I tend to favor elders because of wisdom being so like important. And it's nothing against all of us having our right place, but there's something really strong that comes through when there's this repeated message of people who have seen, like in the pandemic, there was this 85-year-old woman. I was working at Weight Watchers, and I wanted to just do my healing work, but I was trying to like go full time. And anyway, so I was working at Weight Watchers, and this woman comes in to like get weight in the middle of a pandemic. And I'm going, what are we doing here, lady? Part of me is just like, oh my gosh, like where are we at? But it was the sweetest interaction. And she said to me, like, these are some of the worst times I've ever seen. And I'm like, you've been around a lot of times. Like that's saying quite a lot, And she goes, and I mean it. And we had this like delightfully human conversation at a time that felt so removed. And it helped me feel so much more settled because she was just saying, hey, this is really not easy. This is really challenging. And so, yes, you have that acknowledgement, but anytime I'm around people who are looking forward with insight, intuition, and who are predictive or channeled, tuned in to the present, even in some kind of way, always it's a message of like hope and humanity persevering through the heart, like that. There's actually such a power to that, and I can't think of a better time in history and humanity right now for things like OracleFest to exist and to start coming out, because I was just having this chat the other day with another speaker, and she was like, it wouldn't have worked before. Like what you're pitching wouldn't have worked before. The world wasn't ready for it, and it wasn't the need, and it's so, incredibly challenging time, but exciting time in some ways as well, and inspiring in some ways.
And there, I keep getting shown that there will be a war. I keep getting that things are going to get pretty dark. I got that in 1968 or 1967. And I know who the salesman in Fine Silk is now.
Wonder.
I didn't know all those years. Yeah, I wonder. So I just call that person the salesman because we've been sold.
Did you know during the first election that was the same person? Like, did you have that recollection during the first election? You were like, this is it. So you've been carrying the knowing and grief associated with that knowing, because I think it's only human to have a feeling of, to know it, but then not to feel it, still since that time then. Like, because you've carried it from before, but then it really clicked and landed in reality probably, when that person rose to power. Yeah.
And what I know is that he was always going to be here. I mean, I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
In 1967. So this was always going to happen. We were ripe for this. We could have made different choices, but we didn't. Yeah. So we were lined up for this to happen. And what people don't understand is, first of all, I have proof of this on many levels. I have from, let's see here, 2016, I have a picture where my husband and I were out motorcycle riding. And what was the date? June, it was in June. But anyways, we're out motorcycle riding. I want to see if I have it here. I would like to show you this picture.
Sure.
It'll be in my book because it is that we ran into a storm. And when we first got to the storm, am I able to share?
Yeah, if you click
screen?
the share on your side, you should be safe to go.
Okay. Okay, I ran into a storm. We were on a motorcycle ride, and I called in all of our guides. We were way out in the country, and there was no safe place for us to be. And there was another couple with us, and he looked down and they said, "There's a squall line, possible tornadoes heading right towards us." And we were like, "We got to get the heck out of there." So I started calling in all my guides, and I start saying, Archangel Raphael and Michael and Uriel and Haniel, or I didn't say Uriel, I said Haniel, and I named all these, and then I heard and Uriel. And I went, "Oh, Uriel. I thought Uriel was about art and creativity." That's what my aunt always said. Call on him if you're taking a test and he'll help you with the answers. So I said that. We get on the back of the motorcycle, and this pattern right here started looking like a little pyramid down here in the storm. So I started snapping pictures and didn't know what I captured until after we got back. And this pyramid, this is what we were focused on, this really strange, almost like it was hovering above the ground. Now you can really see this pyramid here. But look what happens to the light behind it. It morphs into a butterfly. And then angel wings. And you can see this whole storm. And we were focused on the storm, not the light. And isn't that what we do? So it became a metaphor for me with, I didn't even see the light because I was so focused on the storm. And didn't see that until we got home, which, by the way, we didn't get a drop of rain on us. And as we both pulled into the garage, it started pouring.
I love moments like that.
Yeah. So and a couple of years ago, I heard, "Look at the date." And I thought, the date, okay, let me go back here. It was June 22nd, 2015. So I looked it up. I looked at the date, and then I heard, "Look it up." It was the day that Donald Trump went down and decided, signed his papers to run for president.
Ooh.
The very day that this showed up.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the numbers, they don't lie. The numbers don't lie. I get a lot of insight through numbers. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So this was always going to happen. But again, I keep getting called back to this, and they're saying, don't focus on the storm. There is light behind the storm. Look at the light. Stay focused on the light. Do you have to have safety from the storm? Yes. Yes, you have to do what you need to do. Act if you are called. But stay focused on the light.
So true.
Yeah, so there's a lot of happenings just like that have, where I've been shown the storms, and there's always a storm. And by the way, I've been in 3 tornadoes So storms have been a part of my life, my first vision. And then I became a storm chaser after that because I was fascinated by the storm. And then I ended up in 3 different tornadoes and was safe every time. I was in downtown Nashville when it hit, and I was on the interstate. My car starts lifting like this, and I jumped out of the passenger side, and it sucked my shoes off because I had my window down just a little bit, and it sucked my shoes off, and I landed next to all these other people, but we were plummeted with stuff, but we were safe. And another time, I was speaking at a place, and it was a bank, and I get to the car, and there's all these messages on my phone. People say, "Get the heck out of there! There's storms coming. Get out of there." The building was flattened. The building was flattened at 2:00 in the morning. It no longer existed. Another one, I was in the mall, and it hit the Target store I was in, took off the roof. And I was fine every time. And so we are protected by the light. Does that mean you go out into the storm when it's hitting? No, you have to do something to protect yourself, but know that you are protected. So, that's why my guides call me the storm oracle. Storms are huge.
Oh, no kidding. I love that. It's funny. 2 things are coming to mind to share of my story here, which one is that my best friend often calls me Tornado Kate. So I like that there's this commonality here. She says it more so that when I enter someone's life, things tend to start swirling around and shaking up because I think just the frequency of being around someone who's really living by their values and their heart and their truth in today's day and age is like enough to shake anyone up and have them question what they're doing. So I'm always eye of the storm. I'm always chill. Hey, what's up? What's going on in your life? Asking deep questions as if it's, how are you? And then suddenly the tornadoes around people. And because I used to be so upset that my existing in someone's life was disruptive in some way. Like that used to really frustrate me. And I don't want to have that impact. And, but she was like, well, you're not doing anything consciously or harmfully. It's the stuff that needs to happen in that person's life. It's the stuff that needs to happen in nature. It's the stuff that needs to swirl around in order to flatten things, to settle something, which is very interesting. And the other part is actually, it's a childhood memory because and so this will show our difference in age right now, but 1998, they had a really big ice storm. I was 6 years old. So,
and that's the year my husband and I got married.
Oh, I love that. Well, that was the year that in Ottawa, in Canada, there was a really bad, serious ice storm. And I lived in a really small village outside of Ottawa. And we were I think the only ones on our street who had a wood burning stove. And so all the power was out for like 2 weeks, like more than that, because the city could not come out to the little village. They had to take care of like the mainframe and everything, all the hub first. And then it took time to get all the layers of damage through and out to get the help that we needed and to get power back and everything. Because people forget how quickly all of our technologies and systems have grown and changed. It was a different time, not crazy different, but we weren't online able to text our friends, this is what's going on. And so as a 6-year-old, I actually remember it fondly because I was given the responsibility of lighting candles. And we had people sleeping in our basement. And I thought, how nice is it that we can all come together when it's really cold and scary outside and when we couldn't do anything about any of that. And my mom would make soup on the wood stove. And I thought, well, I have just like such a nice mother to come and help everyone. And my dad was taking care of the septic tank, making sure that, we could have people living and staying in our basement. I was normally alone sleeping in the basement. So I think I just felt like it was an awesome sleepover. But it was always the candle lighting because it felt like I had a responsibility to keep the candles lit because my parents were happy for me to do that job, and tell them if one goes out, I can go get it and light it again. And it's like the most simple thing. And they probably were quite stressed. Like I haven't talked to them about, I should talk to them about it soon. Because they were, I'm sure, very uncomfortable, worried about what was going to happen, thinking about the cost, the lack of work, all these different adult stresses. And me as a kid, I actually really remember it as like bonding and understanding that like this is what humanity is about. And I really felt that. And that was a time I had a lot of psychic dreams, and there was a lot of kid mental activity happening in my psychic realm for sure. I was sleepwalking a lot too. I don't think I sleepwalked at that time, thankfully, when strangers are in our house, but I think about like that weathering the storm and what it looks like when you have a certain mindset versus another mindset. And my mindset at the time was of innocence and community, and the idea that actually if people saw it for what it was, they could recognize the good that was coming out of that. And I hope that that's what we can continue to inspire with all of our work, and also with our shared work here with OracleFest, that actually we keep coming back at different moments with different speakers coming in to share their voices periodically throughout the year. And then once a year we gather for a big, insightful understanding of what may be to come, but also what's happening inside of ourselves, so that we can keep that light alive, like so that we can keep lighting those candles when people are in dark times in our lives and around us. Not everyone has the blessing of spiritual awakening and coming online the way that we all have if you've gotten to this place now in life. And so it's kind of our responsibility to light the candles, just like it was my 6-year-old responsibility to light those candles. And how good did that feel? It's so sweet to think about. I really got to ask my parents what their experience was at that time. I remember it probably totally differently than they remember it, but
Well, I look at the responsibility that I've been given, and it's very hard because I have a very strong judgment over what's going on in this country. Very strong. And yet I see I know a soul contract when I see one. and that's a soul contract. And again, we can prove it again and again. And so I don't know how to convey that without making it political. Like I want this story to be told. This isn't about politics. This is about a person's role and our role in connection with that person. He's here to do one thing. He is the tower. What's the name of his building? Trump Towers.
Never thought about that. That's amazing.
He is the tower. Well, he was the 45th president. What is that? That is 9. Wow. That's a completion of a cycle. What is the second one? He is the 47th president. What does that equal? 11. What is that? 9/11. What came down on 9/11? The towers. He is the tower.
So true. Wow.
Yeah, he is the tower, and he is supposed to be here to do this. What is our response to that? Mm-hmm. That's what we're being called to do, because we all, whether we like him or not, we judge what's going on based on our own storm damage. Mm-hmm. From our lives. So I have found more than one person who have been abused, and they have been in narcissistic relationships that absolutely love him. So they're attracted to the very people that abused, mm-hmm. like attracts, yep. Like, that their pain, and he's speaking the language that has caused abuse in their life, and yet it
like
doesn't
the
make
concept
sense
of trauma bonding, right? It's this concept.
Trauma bonding. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's it. That's how I've tuned it as well, because I can't make sense of it otherwise, to be honest. So that's the only way I can make sense of it, is to consider that person's life must have had some memories or safety or security even in a wounded or victimized mentality, and that if he speaks to pulling someone from that it's a weird trauma bond. But it's almost like they feel the opposite is possible. And yeah, sadly don't.
And there's a lot of people that are very conspiracy minded too,
Yes.
where
Yep.
he's speaking the conspiracies that they go, yeah, I knew it was true.
And they're actually
So
just in the same story. Yeah.
yeah,
The same energy, the
yeah,
same story. If you're playing the exact, you know, it's not an opposite. It's like meeting that flavor of fire with the same, hostility or volatility. To me, I'm always thinking
yeah.
opposite reactions because that's how we get this balance of the pendulum swing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The opposite energy would not be more hostility and volatility on the other side. That's on the same side, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so it's a harsh thing because we need that. We need that because we have to have the pull back in order to find this balance.
We have to.
But yeah, it's not necessarily this. We need to feed that other force just as much, I would say, and on a personal level, being able to walk with both. If you're called to the fire, that you must also take some time for yourself to be in the opposite energy so that you remember what you're fighting for, right? Like, what are we fighting for? We're actually fighting for peace and for unity and harmony, but unity in that we are all unique and individual and respected as such for our cultures and our beliefs and everything. And but that, yeah, it's quite an interesting time. I feel strangely hopeful every time I'm looking at it from the lens at which I am able to look at it from. And yeah, I implore everyone who is listening at this moment and who joins in to Oracle Fest and continues to hear more from Cindy and also hear more from the collective that has come together for this shared idea, which is honoring that inner oracle in you that does know better and knows what your calling and your mission, your fire, what is your part to play. And you said it so brilliantly because we are all in these different archetype stories and parts to play within this whole story of humanity, and everyone rising into the main character, right? Getting into that main character energy. Everyone actually has that for themselves. We're not going to be walking around as zombies, depleted, not sure of what's next, confused, and then potentially overridden by these things that we're so scared of, right? That is the real danger, is weakening our own systems of discernment, of critical thinking, of feeling, of sensing right from wrong from our own hearts. That's the real danger here in these times. So to me, what we are doing, what you're doing, is a solution to some of these dangers facing folks right now. So thank you again for what you do.
Thank you. I would say that the hardest part is they're going by the Nazi playbook 100%, and terrorizing people. Yesterday in Tempe at the university, there were students peacefully protesting, and they went by and pepper sprayed them all. They're just students, and so how do you keep going when that fear, when things are happening, when like the young man that was just murdered, the woman that was murdered, two innocent people that had the right to speak out and say the things and do the things that they were doing, and we witness those things. Therein lies the biggest challenge for us as light workers. One of the things that humanity all received in 2020, in my visions, I saw these armies of prisms, just armies of prisms like this. And they were released from, it looked like a black hole, but they just all of these prisms, and they were just released to all of humanity to, and it landed in everybody's heart center so that they can multiply their light during the dark time. So even if their light is dim, they can amplify the light that is sent out into the world. And so this exists for everybody, but some people, they rejected it. They wanted the darkness instead. And that's our free will. But there are a lot of people that receive and they might not know it's there. So even if we have a little bit of light, right now, this is living in our heart center, and it's amplifying whatever light we have. If we have it, like your light is big, so your light is amplifying. You are a spotlight. You are a spotlight for the world.
You need some
And
sunglasses for this prism.
Right. You need some sunglasses. But that's the beauty of what you're doing. You're marching ahead during these stormy times, and you're saying no. So if I have 6 people, I show up. If I have 10 people, I show up. If I have 100, I show up. Whoever comes, they're the person that needs to hear this at that time, to keep their light, at least a glimmer of hope in their light, so they can, amplify it to the world.
Absolutely. One more storm story on my side here, because it's a recent one and speaks to exactly what you're saying. And my very strong belief in you show up for what you've created and you show up for the callings that you've received. You don't let those go, especially not now. Like not now, especially,
Right.
And,
especially now.
And so, and my shamanic name is Fire Warrior. So, I come packing some heat, some let's do this kind of energy, even though it's coming from this heartful place as well. And I was walking down by the ocean here in Madeira, where I'm very blessed to be, because it's allowed me an isolated place of land to be able to witness from afar right now. That's been really beneficial for me. That's actually one of the benefits of Oracle Mountain when we go visit that spiritual space all together during these events, is like we look down upon the land, not down at it, like from a higher, horse mentality, but just a peaceful break so that we can observe and reflect with more clarity versus being in and among the land. And so I was down by the ocean, and I was writing to my ancestors, and I was looking back over the whole island, and the city of Funchal is like, it's built up, right? Because and so all of these like Portuguese houses, all these like orange roofs, it's like really stunning, really gorgeous to see it all kind of built into the land. It's so stunning. And then there was this big misty gray dark cloud, like all coming over the city and all clouded, shaded. And the people that I'd seen on my walk down really looked like a lot of them were in challenging time. It just happened to be one of those walks where everyone I made eye contact with or passed by, there was, like drunkenness or just really tired faces. You could just see the lack of strength or life that was sort of happening for some of them. And I was thinking about all this OracleFest stuff, and how can we call more people to understand like the importance of this, even during times where they're feeling like they don't have the space for it.
Especially.
Exactly. And so I saw all this and all these houses, and I started thinking about all the different people in all these different houses only on this one city and this one island off the coast of Morocco. And then I thought about the entire North American, continent, and thought, wow, there are so many people just in this one city that could really benefit from the tools, from the people that I know who are coming to be a part of this space and ongoing, and even the replays, right? Just at these times to break down some of these, the medicine journeys, the sound healings, the library, like there's just so many pieces that I know would benefit them. And I said, well, the only thing standing in the way of them knowing is me continually, repeatedly bringing the cause and the charge and gathering community. Eventually they can see it, and that'd be awesome, and my ancestors, as they're writing this message, I'm sort of reflecting, and then I go back to my notebook, and they show me this piece of the land that is like untouched, and there's just this one sun patch on this one piece of green land. It's like such a, perfect scene that I needed to see at that moment. And they said throughout every time in all of history, people have walked forward into lands unexplored and unknown with their heart facing forward, not knowing if people are behind them, because they believed in building better homes for their children's children, right? And so the only reason any of this exists today is because humans have evolved to grow together for a better cause, for sustainability, for some sort of progress in our shared idea of our children's children, the people we don't even know yet. You know, my sister is literally getting induced today and is going to have her baby over the course of OracleFest, which is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Very exciting. But it's like really on a personal level, that brought forward to me this idea of like, there's now going to be another younger being within my, immediate family unit that I then care about if they choose to carry on our lineage, et cetera, I can see it so much more clearly or feel it so much more clearly now. And the ancestors were like, you're always going to be uncomfortable when you feel like no one's with you and your heart's facing forward. But this is the work of intrepid explorers, of heart-based people. You lead with your heart forward. And because of that, it's hard to see what's been behind you because you're looking for a new and a better way. And so there's always going to be discomfort alongside that. Like you don't get to be free from that at any point. It's a part of the experience, it's a part of the journey, because you have hope and belief in what could possibly be for generations to come. So for anyone looking for the discomfort to go away first, not going to work. It's just not going to happen.
It is uncomfortable.
That's what I wanted to say to you, Cindy. I'm just like, thanks for being uncomfortable, because I know it must be to feel and sense and know all that you're picking up.
Well, I find it so interesting in my journey that we couldn't sell the house, and I don't even know why. What was going on? I had another property. I wanted to make it into a retreat center. We tried to do that, and they kept changing. We had plans drawn up, and then they changed the city ordinance, and so they weren't usable anymore. Then we had it again, and it changed. And I said, I can't even afford it now. Yeah. With what's costing to get everything together. And we tried to buy another house. The woman decided she was not selling to me, and that's all there was to it, and it closed down. It was like the real estate agent said, I've never seen anything like it. Doors were slammed again and again. And even in that building that was ours, I would look in it and I would see the walls were bare. All I could see is the framing. And I'm like, how come I never see it finished? I've never seen it finished. And we started that in like 2014, where we tried to do it. And I said, but the house isn't finished. When we sold it, we had started remodeling. We took off all of the sheetrock, and all there was studs. So when I sold it, that's how I sold it, with no walls. And I'm like, I went back and looked at my notes and I went, oh gosh. So everything is in divine timing, even though it doesn't feel like it. We get stopped until I was told, I saw a woman. I had this other real estate agent, and he was being a jerk. I'll just say that he's a gay man, and he's because of what's going on in Tennessee, his marriage is threatened, and he's been married to his husband for close to 25 years or so, and they have 2 sons together, and there is a big threat. So he was kind of weird, and I started seeing this vision of this lady with long dark hair, thin, long, just a tall glass of water, just and dark hair. And he called and he said, Cindy, we're not able to work together right now, so I'm going to bring somebody else in that can kind of take over. She walks in the door and it's her. And I looked at her and I said, you're going to sell my house. She said, I know I am. And she did. And we started talking, and we're still in communication. We had just an immediate bond that was at a soul level. And she said, we're going to get this done. And she guided us every step of the way. And I was still pretty stressed because I was dealing with most of it on my own, because my husband was, went through his whole cancer journey, 4 kinds of cancer at the very time that I'm doing this. And we have a house flood, and
Oh
we're
gosh.
packing, and I'm handling it all myself. And I'm just like overwhelmed. And when I saw her, I knew she was my light that was going to help get us through all of this. And she was just boom, 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 and got it sold. And I just knew it was going to happen. And then for everything to unfold, and we arrive on 10/11 and close on the house on 11/10. And I'm going, divine. It's divine timing. And why do we doubt when we get these signs so clearly? And but we do, because we're human, and we have this this base need, our first chakra, the need to survive. So when our survival is threatened, it's really hard to come up to the heart and let our light shine. So that's what it is. And so every day, that's why I go to the prayer wave every day and bring that light up when I'm feeling those negative things. So just like it's why am I here at this time, and why am I the one being asked to write this book on the 7 Storms Uprooting Humanity, which, by the way, are envy, willful ignorance, deceit, division, prejudice, judgment, and rebellion for rebellion's sake. Each one of them destroys something that we say we value. And, envy destroys trust. Willful ignorance destroys wisdom. Deceit destroys truth. Division destroys unity. Prejudice destroys acceptance. Judgment destroys compassion. And rebellion, for rebellion's sake, destroys order. Mm-hmm. So if we are to heal, we have to reverse the order of what has been destroyed. So you create order with compassion. And with compassion, there is acceptance. Where there is acceptance, there is unity. Where there is unity, there is truth. And where there is truth, we see the divine wisdom that we are one, and only then will we restore the hardest thing, and that is trust. So in a nutshell, that is my book.
I love it. I'm so excited. And I know that you're going to dive deeper into these 7 storms when we meet for Oracle Fest. And so anyone who is curious, I will get this up later tonight or tomorrow morning. And so people can watch this and see little clips and feel called to come out. And if you're catching this after the fact and you're like, oh, bummer, I missed it. There was so much going on and the world was so dark. I just didn't do it. The replays exist. So the replays are available. The community is open. You can join. And throughout the year, I see a serious need for us to continue meeting. So I've added even more events as the year goes on, because I just see how useful it will be for all of us to have places to share and to have gathering places and bringing some healing also to Mount Shasta, and to bringing energy to that area, this very potent portal of energy that's held there. Hopefully America will benefit from us being on the land, doing some real work. So much coming through, and I know so much coming through your channel as well. And so happy to have you on Oracle Mountain Chats anytime. I didn't do a formal intro because you are in story mode, and I did not want to sever the flow that was coming through. But this is Cindy Kubica, and she is the Storm Oracle, and she will be at Oracle Fest, Big OracleFest Online this weekend. And I will put all of your info in the link below. Anything else that you want to say before we head out today?
Well, what I'd like to say, Kate, is that I would like to invite you on my show, Energized Living Today.
I would love to.
And please come and join us. We have just a delightful group. And so, once this is over,
Yeah.
and the timing is right,
Yeah.
just let me know, because I would love to have you come and be a part of our community. We've got a nice community. We've been together since 2010. So it's
Beautiful.
pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will so be there. That was something I heard in my mind earlier today. I was like, you need to show up in a lot of different places this year. So I'll add this to my little list and be so happy to show up. Absolutely. Whatever.
Well, one of the things that would be great. One of the things that I keep hearing from my guides, the Council of Wisdom, they said, yes, there's going to be a lot of darkness. There's storms. There are storms all around us, but make room for magic, because within the storms, there is magic. Amazing things happen when there's storms,
Yes.
and so that's what this whole year is about, making room for magic.
I so feel that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sensing that. It's like breakthroughs, like magic and miracles are concepts that keep coming up for in my mind, and trusting the process, truly trusting the process, showing up for it and trusting it even deeper than ever before. So that's all matching. We have this great symbiotic collective consciousness getting weaved through all this. So anyone who wants to keep diving into that web, show up at Big OracleFest and go check out Cindy's community and her books as well. So thank you for being here. And we'll see you next weekend.
Thank you so much. Okay.